How's it going, folks? Welcome back to their Pokemon Unite tier list video here on YouTube. It's been about a week since Aegislash, the most recent character that was added to Pokemon Unite's roster, was added to the game. And we're coming back at you today to break down how that character has impacted the metagame, both in the solo queue metagame when you're playing with random teammates, as well as the kind of more competitive tournament scene with dedicated 5 stacks working together. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the solo queue tier list. Now, this tier list for solo queues is not terribly different from last week. At the very top of the list in the S tier, we've got 5 characters that are all excellent at getting big and scaling up. I think the thing that's most important for a character to be good inside of the full solo queue is that it has to be powerful if it gets over leveled. The easiest way for you to impact the outcome of your solo queue games is to be a higher level than everybody else in the game and be able to kind of 1v5, honestly. And these 5 characters here are all excellent at that. I think Cinderace is probably a cut above these other 4 in terms of its raw carry potential. However, the thing Cinderace lacks compared to the rest of these is that it doesn't contest last hits in lane nearly as well as these 4 do, which means if you're unable to get the center path with your character, I would much rather be playing any of these 4 as opposed to Cinderace while solo queuing. In the A tier, we have a bunch of characters that are just reasonably powerful in terms of their moves and their stats, but they kind of line up poorly into certain matchups. For example, Gardevoir and Garchomp can get kind of embarrassed by a really efficient Blaze Kick Cinderace, kind of out-positioning them on average. Other characters like Charizard, for example, can't really lane efficiently early, so if you can get the center path with them, they can be really powerful and carry a game. However, if you're forced to go top path or bottom path with the Charizard, generally speaking, you're going to be really underleveled. Aegislash here is our new character added to the block, and I've slotted it here in the B tier. But that being said, I think this is like a B plus asterisk. I've got it at the front here for a reason. Aegislash is a character that's really tricky to play. If you haven't caught any of my gameplay videos with it or played with it yourself, it's a character where micromanaging when you're in the offense or defense mode to either output more damage quickly or heal yourself back up while you're tankier, something that's very difficult to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if Aegislash is a character we see start to get more play as people become more proficient with it. I know personally, I felt like my ability to play it has gone up every time I finished a session with it. And I think once people get more repetition under their belt, there's a good chance that this character could sneak up into this A category because it can not only be tanky, but it can also output a lot of damage, allowing you to carry a game proficiently. The rest of the characters in here are ones that are capable of doing lots of damage if they don't have someone diving on them and they're played well, but they have a little bit worse, weaker kit than any of the characters in the S and A tier here. Some of these characters, though, for example, Decidueye is a character that I'm very personally fond of, that if you are not full solo queuing, you're doing a duo or a trio, I think where these characters fall in the stack exactly can vary a bit depending on who your supporting cast is. Speaking of, these characters in the C tier are down here because none of these characters, in my opinion, can full solo carry a game. However, if you're playing even just a duo, any of these characters can be very reasonable when paired with another teammate that's capable of being that damage carry for you. You know, for example, Decidueye or Cinderace or Greninja are extra powerful when they have a Mamoswine or a Slowbro or a Snorlax or a Mime or a Wiggly, any of these characters, to peel people away from it. That being said, we do still have a couple of characters down here that I think no matter how you slice it, Trevenant and Crustle, they just aren't very good. Their kits aren't impactful. They don't really fill the role you're looking for their character to fill, and their numbers are just bad overall. So hopefully these characters get some buffs. I don't think it's so much solo queue that's keeping these 2 down so much as their stat lines as is just aren't particularly good. Moving on to 5 stacks, Pokemon Unite Worlds was announced since the last time we did a tier list video, and this has really caused a lot of teams to start hammering in on what characters they want to play in the competitive setting. And I think as we've seen these teams optimize, it's felt like some of the roles have opened up a little bit and others have narrowed. So at the S tier at the top here, I still have Lucario, Eldegoss, Pikachu, Wiggly, Cinderace, because I do think this team composition that Team TTV notably is known for playing is a cut above everything else. I think these characters, if you are good with them, can allow you to snowball an early game advantage that you can use to run the game over with. That being said, I think a lot of these characters have flexibility in your 5-stack, depending on play pattern preference or counter picks, depending on who you know you're playing against. So to run through, Cinderace, I think, is the character that we've seen the most diversity in for that role. Other characters we've seen going center path recently are Talonflame, Greninja, Dragonite, and Gardevoir. Greninja specifically is a character that's been taking Surf in order to dive opposing Cinderaces. Talonflame for similar means. Both of these have become popular counter picks to what is considered the most powerful jungler from a raw power perspective. Dragonite is still just Dragonite. It's the best secure in the game, so it allows you to kind of take those engages around objectives more proactively, knowing that you're more likely to secure. Now, the defender role here in Wigglytuff has a couple of other characters that see play. Slowbro is the one that most commonly sees play over Wiggly. Slowbro is notably better at contesting last hits early in lane. Snorlax is another character that sees some amount of picks in that defender role. It's absolutely the best at contesting last hits, but it's also the one in the Wiggly, Slowbro, Snorlax slot that kind of falls off the most in the late game, largely due to its Unite move being the worst of the three. As far as attackers go, Pikachu is oftentimes replaced by Venusaur. I think these two are fairly close overall, with Pikachu having an edge early and Venusaur having an edge late. We also see occasionally people play Dragonite or Gardevoir in this attacker slot, but that's much less common than Pikachu or Venusaur there. Now, top lane and the support character in Eldegoss, I think these are the two most narrow picks in the competitive 5 stacks right now. A lot of good players I know won't consider either of these over Lucario now that the metagame has settled a little bit, and the same thing with Blissey over Eldegoss. You'll still see either of these two top lane on occasion from teams as a comfort pick, and Blissey will sometimes go over Eldegoss if they're looking to kind of supercharge their jungler, you know, giving the attack speed boost lets you be more aggressive, while Eldegoss gives you more sustain inside of team fights. These S and A tiers are basically all of the characters that people that I would consider the best in the game as far as 5 stacking go are playing in their compositions, which to its credit is a pretty wide range of characters. I think outside of the solo top role and supporter role with the healer and Eldegoss, there's actually a lot of comp diversity we see people swapping in and out of. These B and C tier characters are ones that we see people flex into on occasion, but I think more often than not they end up being kind of mediocre picks. Aegislash and Blastoise can sometimes see play top. Mime occasionally sees play in the defender role. Same with Mamoswine. Charizard and Garchomp are sometimes junglers. Garchomp sometimes a top laner, but I think all of these characters and the ones below are ones that if you're really competitive and serious about the game, you're probably not slotting them into your composition. At any rate, what do you think of my tier list this week? Are there things you think I missed on? Did you agree with it? Let me know in the comments down below. If there's something you'd like to hear me explain a little bit more in depth, I'm always happy to do that. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with another gameplay highlight here on YouTube.